This is the assembly video for the wagon. As I've said in previous videos, all the items come on these cards now. Most of the objects only have one connector onto the sprue, so the larger objects, like the base of this wagon, are somewhat fragile and they fall out pretty easily. I didn't even really touch it and it just falls right off. Other items that are much smaller are a little bit harder to get off, so you might have to wiggle them back and forth a little bit for it to come off. Like that. So you should have two sides, four wheels, a seat, a front piece, a base, and two axles and two seat supports. So for the seat supports, since they're kind of a lot of wiggly lines going on there, I'm just going to use my hobby knife here and cut the sprue connectors. And then I'm going to use my hobby knife to push these out. So when painting these, I'm not going to go over painting in this video because it's an assembly instruction video. But to paint these, generally you would want to coat them in a wood stain, like I've done here. And you'll see that it actually gets rid of a lot of the burn marks that are on the wood. So most of the burn marks are diminished pretty significantly just by adding a coat of stain to it. And that's just a typical wood stain that you'll find at Home Depot or Lowe's. And I spray painted the side things for the seat holder silver, so that it just stands out a little. And I'm going to go back and paint the outsides of the wheels silver, so it looks like it's got one of those little silver rings on the outside of the wheel. But let's get to assembling. So you have two different sides, a left and a right. You have the base. Now the piece with the notch, so you'll see here that the notch needs to face this notch here on the base. That's how that works. This straight flat piece here is the back. So these flat pieces are the back. Then you have four wheels, and you have two axles, you have two seat holders, you have the seat, and then this is the front of the cart. So those are the pieces. So here's how we're going to do this. If you want, you can go through and trim all of the sprue connectors where it was connected to the sprue, which is this little white piece right here. You could trim all these off with your hobby knife just to smooth them out a bit if you want. It's not completely necessary, but it does definitely help when assembling, because those notches are actually where these two pieces would go together. So you can see here that the notch for this wagon base is where this side wall fits right into where that notch is. So you can go in there with a hobby knife or a file and file that down if you would like. It would make it slightly easier to assemble this wagon. Here's how we're going to assemble it. We're going to put glue on this outside tabs that stick out. We're going to flip it around. We're going to put glue on these outside tabs that stick out. And then we're going to put glue here. Now using wood glue, you'll get a stronger bond. However, with the super glue, it dries faster, which is great for making these assembly videos because I'm able to work faster. Again, the notch on the side piece needs to face the notch on this piece. So these two face the same direction, and put it in. Let it set for a second. Now if you're using wood glue, you would have to clamp these things down, let it cure for quite a bit, or let it dry and set for quite a bit, maybe half an hour, I forget what it is. And once it's set, then you can put the next piece on. But then it's still going to take, a day to cure and really, set up. So we did put glue on that tab, so we're good there. I'm just going to put glue on the inset pieces here and the inset piece here. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick the front of the wagon on here, like so. So that's the front of the wagon. And again, that's why the piece with the notch piece has to face the front so that this piece can go in. So that's the back of the wagon. Next, we're going to work on the actual driver's seat, the front of the wagon. So that's going to go like this. We're going to put glue right inside of the notch piece there. Now another way of doing this would be to put glue on the inside, on the left and right of that cutout notch. And the reason for that is because once the seat goes on there, it's going to slide right in and it's going to connect to that glue. So the round piece faces forward, the hooked piece here faces back. So the round piece, the rounded corners here, they face forward, which is this way, and then the hooked piece faces back. So when you have it together, it should look like this. So you see how those rounded corners face forward and the hooked pieces face back? That's so that this will hook onto the front of the wagon. And I do that so that you could, if you want, you could just not glue this onto the wagon and just have it hooked on like that, so that later you could take it off. It just gives you more versatility. I try to do that in some of my pieces just to make it easier, more modular, you know. For the axles, I'm just going to put glue here on the tips of the axles, and then we're going to go ahead and set this in, and we're going to put glue on the tip of this axle, and we're going to set that in to this wheel. Give those a second to set up and dry. And then, oh, that's because that wasn't glued on. And then we're going to slide the axle through the holes. The reason those holes are round is so that the axle can spin, so that the wheels actually move. Just put a little glue on the inside of that wheel, slide it onto the axle. That. Back it off a little bit so it sits flush, like so. And then we'll do it to this one too. Put this axle through the holes, set it down. We're going to put glue on the inside of this, and then slide this onto the axle like this. And we'll give it a little spin so the glue doesn't dry or doesn't glue itself down to the wagon. And that's it. That's the assembly instructions for the wagon.